In the last lecture, you learned how to handle expected and unexpected errors. Now, currently we have done this only in our handle delete method, but we need the same kind of error handling when creating a post, updating a post, and getting all the posts from the server. So if we have an unexpected error, we should log that error and display a generic friendly error message to the user. We don't want to repeat these two steps everywhere. There must be a better way. That's when we use an interceptor in Axios. So in Axios, we can intercept our requests and responses. And if we have a response with an unexpected error, we can handle that error in one place. So we can log that error and display a friendly generic error message to the user. Let me show you how. So on the top, after our import statements, you type Axios dot interceptors dot, look, we have two properties here. We can intercept all our requests before going out or intercept the responses we get. So now we want to intercept our responses. Here we have a use method. This method takes two parameters. Both these parameters are functions that will be called. The first function will be called if the response is successful, and the second function will be called if the response includes an error. Now, in this case, we don't want to intercept successful responses. Maybe in your application, whenever you get a successful response from the server, you want to log that somewhere for auditing. Who knows? In this case, we don't care about that. So I'm going to pass null here. And then here we should pass a function. So error goes to a code block. This function will be executed every time we have a response with an error. Let me show you. So I'm going to do a console.log interceptor called. Now to pass control to our catch block, we need to return a rejected promise. So return promise.reject. This will create a rejected promise. We simply include this error in our promise object. With this implementation, whenever we have a response with an error, this function will be called first, and then the control will pass to our catch block here. Let me show you. So here I'm going to do a console.log handle delete catch block. Save the changes. Now let's add an invalid post ID back in the browser. Let's delete this post. Okay, you can see our interceptor got called first, and then control was passed to our catch block. So we don't need this console.log anymore. Now we can move these two lines in our interceptor. So if you have a response with an unexpected error, we can log the error and display a friendly generic error message. So let's cut this code from here. Also, we don't need the else block. Now back on the top, I'm going to remove this console.log. Instead, we're going to log our error, display our error message, and then return a rejected promise. But we want to execute these two steps only if we have an unexpected error. So if we have an expected error, we can simply return a rejected promise. Okay? So let's modify this code like this. If error.response is truthy and error.response.status is greater than or equal to 400 and this status code is less than 500. So if it's in the 400 range, that means this is an expected error. We simply return a rejected promise. We don't log it. We don't display this generic error message. Okay? So we can extract this expression into a constant. Let me cut this from here. Define a constant, expected error. Then we can change this to, if we have an expected error, we'll return a rejected promise, otherwise blah, blah, blah. Or we can reverse this condition. So if we have an unexpected error, then we don't need this return. We will log the error and display our generic message. Either way, we will return a rejected promise. That is a better implementation. Save the changes. Now the code is reformatted. So let's go back to our delete method and make sure this refactoring is working. So let's go to handle delete. Here it is, beautiful. So note that we removed the handling of unexpected errors, so we don't have to repeat this everywhere. We have implemented it once in our interceptor. So here we have an invalid post ID. Let's make sure everything works. So back in the browser, oops, we have an error here. Line 12, X is not defined. So back on the top, this is the code that I copied from our delete method. Instead of X, we're dealing with error. Save the changes. Okay, good. Delete. In this case, because we're simulating an expected error, we get this message. This post has already been deleted. Okay, good. As you can see, the error is not logged. Now let's simulate an unexpected error. So back in our handle delete, let's pass a valid post ID, but change this URL to an invalid URL. Save the changes. Delete. Now we got a generic error message and the error is logged. So with this interceptor, we're handling unexpected errors globally. So we don't have to repeat this everywhere. And that means in our component did mount method, if we can't get the list of posts from the server, our interceptor should kick in, log the error, and display a generic error message. Let's simulate that. So I'm going to change this to an invalid URL, save the changes. Back here, you can see we got our generic error message and the error is logged on the console. Beautiful. So our interceptor did its job properly. Now, back to our component did mount method. You might be curious why I didn't add a try catch block here. Because in this case, we are not anticipating expected errors, so we don't need to catch the error, and also we don't need to revert the UI to its previous state. In our handle delete method, we had to add this try catch block here to check for a specific expected error, and also to undo the changes we made to the UI. So to recap, you would need the try catch block only if you need to do something specific as a result of this failure. Otherwise, leave the handling of unexpected errors to the interceptor.